meeting? Terrific. Thank you. Okay. When we say online, this is an asynchronous online class. That means that there are no scheduled meetings. While we have office hours and we're available, all of us are available to meet with you by request. You can do your assignments at 11 o'clock at night. You can do them 11 in the morning, as long as you do them while the assignment is open before the due date. That's totally up to you. Okay, that's what we mean by asynchronous online programs. The one thing that I think sometimes people get into issues with is some technical requirements. We would recommend a screen size minimum of 1024 by 768, which is about the size of a netbook. It's really kind of hard since everything is online on the learning management system that we use here at Lane called Moodle to really see everything. So sometimes we have people want to do everything on an iPhone or an iPad. That really is not recommended. In general, if you have a computer that is newer than 5 years old and has 286, or I'm sorry, 2 GB of RAM and a fairly recent processor, 2 GHz or faster, you should be fine. If you use a Mac or a PC, either one is fine. When we take HIM 125, we will have assignments that are going to require a PC to use Microsoft Access, but you can borrow a PC or use the computers here at the library or what have you. The other thing you need is reliable internet. And that's Moodle has been, they say that it's been crafted to accommodate low bandwidth environments, but the minimum they seem to think is 512. Okay. Any questions?
So you would recommend a netbook, not an iPad, to be used for the Moodle quizzes and exams?
I do not recommend using an iPad. I would recommend using a PC or a Mac, and a couple of reasons behind that. In general, most healthcare organizations are PC oriented. A lot of things in Excel. And yes, there are workarounds that you can use in Google Sheets and things like that. But for the most part, particularly if you go to the hospital environment, things are in a Microsoft Office environment, right? So if you don't have that, the Shed has some excellent resources for you. And there are other providers, I think T-Mobile, AT&T has portable hotspots that are discounted for college students. They have some that you can borrow here at Lane. That's a little outside of my scope, but I have sent some students over to the Shed and they were able to get more up-to-date devices and hotspots. So that's one thing. If you don't have reliable internet, it is going to be a problem. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Okay. Any other questions? Nicole, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. We're updating our HIM orientation manual for students, and you'll see it shortly. It's just about finalized. But in general, the main thing I would say to be successful in this program is two things: ability to work independently, be disciplined, and be realistic, right? In general, a rule of thumb that many people find helpful: for each credit that you're taking, multiply it by 3. And that's the amount of time that you can expect to work on that outside of class. All right. And the main thing is you want to be able to learn the material successful in the profession. The idea is, as much as all of us would like to finish our degrees as quickly as possible, the main thing is to learn the material, right? If you don't learn the material, and a lot of the stuff is cumulative, you'll be seeing it again and again. And certainly when you sit for the RHIT exam, and then certainly when you get out into the workforce. So it would behoove everybody to make sure that you learn it. And that may involve, in some cases, taking fewer courses so you can get through, do well, understand the material, and be successful. Any questions? Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Torvik if she has a microphone situation straightened out to talk about the co-op and Complio.
Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can, yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, I've got a new monitor and it wasn't synced right with the microphone. So, um, so one of the things that you'll be working with me on as you get closer to your co-op internships. Let me turn my camera on here. So as you in the term before you do your co-op internship, you'll want to be working closely with me around the prerequisites that you have to do through American Data Bank Complio. So all of our clinical internships have requirements for health profession students before they go out into the community and into a clinic. As HIM students, you have fewer requirements than those who are going into clinical internships. But there are still some things that you'll need to do. One is a background check, another is a drug screen. You'll need to do 3 trainings, 2 OSHA trainings and a HIPAA training. Most of those are around half an hour each. You also will need to, well, depending on when you're doing the internship. If it's during flu season, you'll need to get a flu shot. If COVID becomes an issue again, some clinics may require COVID shots. At the moment, I don't believe that's a requirement anywhere, but those circumstances can change, and it will, what you need to do will depend on your placement site. Places like Peace Health are far more stringent, I would say, than maybe other medical clinics. So it depends where you are. But the basics are that you're going to need to do the blood screen, the drug screen, the background check, the training, and a couple other requirements. So we will do a more in-depth orientation probably the end of January or so, beginning of February, for anybody who is planning on doing a spring internship. And then we'll get more into the nitty gritty of what the internships involve and what you need to do. So for these requirements, a Complio account will cost around $122. They've just raised their prices a little bit. And that includes the required drug screen background check, as well as a tracker, so that both you and I can see, what you've done and what your progress is. Let's see. So, and then the winter orientation will go into much more detail about what you can expect for the co-op, what your responsibilities are, what the co-op responsibilities are. We have contracts with various places in the community, and sometimes in other communities if you're doing this long distance. So does anybody have any immediate questions about that?
Hi, I had a question. My name is Tristina. I did dental assisting last fall and had to do the OSHA HIPAA training for the little certification print off. Is that something I would have to retrain for, or are those still good for spring?
it's a good idea to do those trainings again. I know, with the dental hygiene program being a 2-year program, they require all of those trainings to be redone in the second year. So that is a good idea to have that fresh.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one quick note on this, and this came up last year with a couple of students, is that you typically do your co-op the term before you graduate. We had one person last year who I think did it sometime in the first year, and we do that for a few reasons. Ideally, you want to do your co-op with someone who might potentially hire you, and you want to be able to put your best foot forward by having all these things. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it in your first year when you still have another entire year to go. And there is a time limit on how long these are good for. So in the case of this one student, he signed up, paid his fees and everything else, and wasn't ready to do his co-op until later on and had to repay them. So we want to avoid that if possible. So do we have any other questions about co-op? And again, if you're a first-year student in our program, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. You're welcome to schedule time to meet with me and discuss these things. But Kathy talked about those Complio requirements. We expect to have at least 2 online virtual kind of co-ops. And when we tried to do this last year with one student, they didn't do any of the Complia because they felt like, well, if I'm working virtually, I don't really need to. Well, you're still potentially handling PHI.
Mhm.
You still may have access to a facility's data and things like that. So you need to do all those things. And especially if they want to bring you in, get to know you a little bit, have a face-to-face meeting. So please bear that in mind.
The other thing to know about the Complio requirements is that unless you are completed with them, compliant in their system, you cannot start your internship. So we've had problems in the past with students starting their internships and they haven't completed their requirements. Well, that is essentially going against our contract with the medical organization. So we need to stay within our contract obligations. So you would not be able to start your co-op without having that completed.
And Miss Torback, or is it Professor Torback? Kathy?
What?
I just have a question. So will you be working with us individually to help with job placement and training and figure out what requirements we need for the co-op?
No, you'll be working more closely with Rick on,
Okay.
those co-op arrangements. Yeah. I pretty much do the Complio stuff, the American Data Bank.
Okay. But you will work closely with us to make sure we have the requirements, we meet them before we start.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and general questions about the program, I'll need to get some paperwork from all of you. So that kind of more administrative stuff I'll be handling.
That's good though.
And I need to ask who Woody is.
Oh, Whitley.
Whitley. Okay. I don't have you on my list.
Sorry.
What's your last name?
Bearden.
Okay. And then student, the one that's listed as student.
Okay,
Sorry.
I have that information for you, Kathy.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
About the co-op. I don't live anywhere near Eugene, so is it possible to do it where I live, or do I have to travel to Eugene?
You absolutely can do a co-op. What I would need to do when you get to that point where you're going to be doing your co-op is you and I should meet by Zoom. We'll talk about what the options are. We've placed one person in Texas. And we're having more and more students who live outside of the Eugene Springfield area. So that is doable, but we need to kind of think ahead,
Okay.
especially if it's out of state.
Well, no, I live in Newport, just, was curious about that.
Understood. So we're looking at getting some things lined up with Care Oregon or, doing more virtual ones. That seems to be the new thing that a lot of HIM educators are moving towards. And for some people, it's a good fit. Some people, it's not, but we can address that when we get closer to that point.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
It's one of the
course.
reasons why I frown upon the whole one size fits all kind of scenario.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the nice thing about health information management is it has a lot of aspects to it. I know of people that are working for Microsoft. One of our adjunct faculty is a consultant with Microsoft. I know people that have worked for pharma companies, law enforcement, law offices, and another growing area is the payer side, right? So people always think like, I want to be a hospital coder and work from home. Well, you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I know a number of hospital coders that have transitioned into other roles and found them just as rewarding and perhaps more lucrative. So that's the great thing about health information management. There are a lot of different areas you can move into. One of my students formerly at City College of San Francisco is now doing Epic installs, working
Nice.
for the electronic health record vendor Epic. So that's another area where they're hiring people in our field. So they're all different types of things there. But again, we can address those co-op issues as we get closer to that. And that you have over a year and a half to take our courses, learn more about the profession, and see what type of co-op would be the best fit for you. Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have a question if you don't mind.
No, of course.
So on the HIM page on the Lane website, I saw that you had an employment rate of 100% for the recent year. Can you explain to me, like, just give me some color about how that works, like how the students are ending up employed at that rate? Like, are employers ever like offering jobs to your students first, or is this just like kind of like they're going out and looking for these things? And like, what kind of jobs are these students getting placed in right off, their graduation? Thank you.
Okay, that's a great question. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the same thing. Some of them have gotten hired right out of their co-ops. We just had one this spring that did. Our program is growing. We've had some people that have graduated a few years ago that have also done co-ops. One person I think was hired by Kaiser Permanente as a coding apprentice while they were in the program. That doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. Sometimes there'll be public health studies that will reach out to me and look for students. We had a billing company recently that reached out to us, and all these job openings, as I get them, I'm putting them on the HIM bulletin board. How many people have no idea what the HIM bulletin board is?
I have not seen that.
Okay, what I will do is once I get a master list put together of everybody who's in our program, I'll send this out. I've sent this out
you.
to a few people, and we're planning on expanding it a little bit, so we'll have more job offerings and different things. If you get the opportunity to work in an HIM department or an HIM related job, I would strongly encourage you to take it. I think it does give you kind of a leg up in our program to be working your way through the coursework while you're working. Some of these things are available full-time, part-time, so there are different options out there. So that's one place to look for them. And we're looking to expand that. We're also revamping our Instagram page, so we'll have some of those things out there. So I'm not the best source of all things Instagram. I have to take social media lessons from my children, but I have other assistants out here. So look for that to be rolling out once school starts. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I'm sure something will come up. So if nobody has any questions, I'll release you back to make best use of your time. But if you ever need to schedule a meeting with me, I try to keep my Google Calendar up to date. So in my email stationery, you can click and set up a meeting. Once I get that notification that you've scheduled it, as I think some of you have, I'll send you a Zoom link and we can meet. If you'd prefer to meet in person, we can do that too. Generally on campus, Monday through Thursday. Every once in a while, I'll work from home, but in general, I'm here and available in Building 30, Room 210.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon.
You're very welcome. It's great to see everybody. I'm really excited about the school year. We have a record number of people in our program, and we're looking forward to hearing more from all of you and looking forward to seeing you succeed in health information management.
One more thing for me to add. The bulletin board is also a place where I will be updating and posting the most recent this year's rendition of the Pomplio requirements and the forms that you would need to be using. So you can look for that information on the bulletin board as well. And Rick will have instructions on how to self-enroll into the bulletin board.
Thank you.
Yep. And I will be sending that out to everybody who is in our program. Most of the people who applied from last year are already on it. There are a few that are not. So periodically, I like to send out reminders on how to do it. Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
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 Okay.
you.
Bye now.
Good luck, everybody.
Okay. Bye now.